Hey, what's up, guys? And as I continue to do stuff, I'm covering some older things that I've gotten in as of late as I hunt down older pieces before all the craziness started. And it's really cool because I was able to finally track down a NECA Youngblood, Alien vs. Predator Youngblood. And it's really cool because I really like the movie stuff and I also like the comic book stuff. So this gives me my fix of both. NECA's definitely been covering that. And what's really cool is with the AVP stuff, they actually were the predecessors to the newer Ultimate bodies, which is pretty dope. These is where we started getting torso articulation and things like that. And I really, really enjoy the movie costumes. So it's cool to finally get my hands on some of those. More importantly, shout out to William Christian, who was able to get this from me in a trade. He actually just happened to be at a show and saw it. So I do appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. And yeah, so let's cover that review. As I was saying before, this is definitely on the older bodies, but I really, really like these guys. And covering this a little later gives me a little bit more of a way to kind of give a fresh new look at something that was already done, but I'm late to the party too. So yeah. So with the older bodies, what we also have to talk about is we don't get that range of articulation that we normally get. So as I go over this with this, and you may have watched one of my newer videos, I'll probably try to cover that new articulation to show you the difference as well. So here we are with our head articulation. We can go up. We can't go far down anymore because with the newer bodies we can do that and we're used to it, but we can't. This is about as far as it goes. It reaches basic eye level height for him. We can go left and go right and we can tilt, but we cannot look down even further at risk of snapping that peg. So you can't just do that, which is pretty crazy because they've come a long way in that little bit of time. Then we finally have that really cool torso articulation where it starts here, but it doesn't rock as far forward as the new Ultimate bodies. We have an arm, and this one actually goes pretty far up. It can get all the way across with no problem. We have that biceps, we have that gauntlet swivel, then we have that bicep swivel, and we are double jointed, so we actually get a lot of room for movement here. This also uses those really old polycaps. As you clearly saw, mine's popped right off, so I'm going to grab that while I'm off camera. Voila. And like I said, it uses these older ones. So if you are using any of the older joints for the AVP, obviously it's not going to be compatible with a bunch of the newer stuff. Then over here we have the pauldron arm, which is covered in shoulder armor. This is actually connected to the torso piece of the armor. Normally I'm not a fan of these, but it actually works out here because they made it soft enough so that way it still keeps his range. But what NECA didn't account for back then is that joint that they use on his arm that keeps this arm from coming up even further. This is a bit of a drawback, and it kind of bums me out that they didn't kind of keep this in hindsight for then. And it could come up, but it's just a real danger and risk of breakage that I don't want to run. Like, I just don't want to run into that problem. So we still have the wrist gauntlet and the double joint here, but it sucks that you don't get that same range of movement. But still one of those things that it still came out really, really nice. So we have that lower torso swivel, and this is very limited as well too. This can't go too far. It can only go left and right about that far. Now, as far as our legs go, we can actually spread them pretty far out. We actually get a great range going outward, and going forward, we have a pretty decent range. Can't go really far up though. That's because all of this stuff is kind of attached to itself. And then we have these small things like the shurikens that kind of get in the way, that shuriken armor. But if you push a little further, you can clearly see that you can get a little bit more range. You have a little bit of wiggle room here for that knee swivel. And then you have that thigh swivel as well. And if this is also double jointed as well. So when you want that certain range of movement, if you're willing to push it, you can definitely get it. One thing I will add, please be very careful for where you have the sheaths for the short sword. This is very easily breakable. Mine snapped off just coming out the package, but luckily it's a clean break that allowed it just to be glued right back in, so you have to be very careful. We have a really generous ankle pivot, which I thought is some of the best from NECA, right? Forward, backwards, left, right, tilting. You get all that good jazz, right? This is pretty crazy though, because I really like these, and these actually are a little taller than that of the Ultimate bodies as well too. So it's pretty cool to have these guys handy when you want to do some cool movie shots, especially when you really want to get down to that older stuff, right? So these guys can actually pose up pretty well too. The Youngblood is actually pretty nice. It has that clean body scheme. It doesn't have an unmasked head. It just covers that Youngblood history. So it's pretty bareback too. And yeah, it's pretty bareback there. And the reason why is because you get a plasma caster for it. We're going to talk about that right now. So this plasma caster is pretty nice, solid, and it's pretty much follows the same point as the rest of them. I think most plasma casters are the same mold here, but they differ with the size of the weapon on top. So depending on if it's an ultimate or a movie one, I think that changes. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to move some of the hair out of the way. You're going to lock in at the bottom and then try to just match it at the top. And then voila, plasma caster sits on top. Your only real worry is going to be that hair at the top and how you're going to figure out how that moves out the way. So you slide this up and you can get it right over the shoulder. So voila. These plasma casters seem to be a little stronger than our ultimate counterparts, as I've had no issues with any of mine breaking whatsoever, right? Then we actually get we're going to get a combi stick with a xenomorph head, right? And this is pretty cool because this is one of those things I didn't think that he would come with, but he actually came with it. And you can see the xenomorph blood and brains covered, and the combi stick go right through the tip of the top, and it's held in his left hand. He only comes with one open hand for the left hand, and it just slides right in. So what you do is you'll slide the skinny part right through, and then slide it down, and then voila. And again, it cannot hold the weight because they actually gave the full weight of a xenomorph head. So depending on how you want to pose it, it really can't hold its weight unless you're going to do the over the shoulder kind of pose, which let me bring it back. I didn't realize it was on camera. So yeah, until you like kind of do it this way to actually hold up a certain way, it won't really hold on its own. It actually has a lot of weight to it. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer, but it's not too much of a major thing. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about is the fact that he has a short blade, which is, I believe, is a ceremonial blade for those in the movies, which you use to kill xenomorphs with. It can actually be sheathed, and it can be held in the same hand, which is pretty dope. Then we have our wrist blades for our gauntlet, and these actually plug in on both sides. So he is a double-bladed warrior. I'm only going to plug in one on each side so you can see how they look. And they actually plug in and hold pretty tight, and they are sharp, so please be careful. You can hurt yourself. I've done it numerous times. Don't be like me. Do not be like me. So yeah, this guy is basically our Youngblood Wolverine. So I can definitely do a team up with him and Wolverine and have a good time, right? This is pretty dope. And I love the way this guy looks. It's clean, it's straight to it, and it's one of those things where if it wasn't expensive, I'd go out and buy more of the older ones. But as you know, NECA discontinues stuff and it gets pretty rare. Now, while mine does not come with certain things, one thing I do want to point out is there is still an open port here. So if you want to take one out of the other Predators and put it here to hold a combi stick, you can. I don't want to run the risk of that, but I'm pretty sure there's people who know how to do that. And because I had extra combi sticks, just know that he actually can hold these guys with no problem, like I said. So real quick though, general consensus is that I've thoroughly enjoyed these older Predators as much as I've enjoyed the new ones. In hindsight, because I'm reviewing it later, I can see where a lot of stuff has evolved, and I can't really complain because I've gotten it late. Like, this is part of the reason why I kind of didn't know about a bunch of stuff getting better, because I left it back when none of the Predators had that torso articulation. So it's crazy now that we've come a long way, and I've seen it kind of evolve as from the outside. So as you have like here with Gotham Hunter, who can look down, can look up. They've modified that neck. They made them a little smaller, as you can see here, all while learning from what they've previously done. Like even with an Emissary, right? And this is also, you can call this the size comparison as well too. But even like with Emissary, who's a little bit bigger, you're learning as you go along from the things that you do. And I think that NECA is actually really doing that with the Predator stuff. And I adore Predator, so this is nothing new to me. I've really just enjoyed the line. So it's been fantastic, like really fantastic to be able to get back into it. Now, when I compare him to a Temple Guard who has different wrist blades and slightly different gear and looks just only a tad bit different besides the helmet, like as you can see here with the older bodies, you know what you're getting. Here we are with an Elder. And as you can see, all these movies, guys, share similar body or scheme in some shape or form, right? We have the Elder, we have the Youngblood, we have the Temple Guardian. And just to throw it off, to try something a little different, there's people like the Serpent Hunter, right? Who is technically in the movie stuff, but he's real more so the comic book stuff, right? And the video game. Slightly different, but still similar. So all that, it's all learning. It's a learning curve. Now, when we compare these guys to other things like now, we will have stuff like the Mythic Legions, who I constantly compare these guys to. They look utterly fantastic. So there we are with the Mythic Legions. Here we are with an SH Fig Arts Kamen Rider Gates. And these guys are generally super duper tiny compared to the NECA stuff, which is, I believe the AVP stuff wasn't even listed as 7-inch, but nowadays it is. Then we have a Mezco Gomez. And as you can see here, this guy is, you know, he's the biggest, he's the beefiest. Even next to a Mythic Legion's Ogre, right? This guy is easily already competing with an Ogre to where the Ogre isn't even gigantic, right? He's just competing with him naturally, like height-wise. Then we have other stuff, which I'm going to compare to right now. We have really cool things like the Hasbro G.I. Joe Snake Eyes, which I think actually will run pretty good with these guys. I think, you know, he'll give them a run for their money. Then we have a Hasbro Lightning Collection Zeo Blue, which I definitely have to get around reviewing. We have a Hasbro 6-inch scale Spider-Man. We have an Articulated Icons Ninja. So Ninjas versus Predator can definitely be a thing. Especially with Predator Hunters out from Dark Horse. Boy, that stuff works really well right now. But yeah, as you can see here, this guy is gigantic, but it really does prove its scale here with other lines. And I think that's kind of where it works pretty well. I know a lot of people don't like crossing over and stuff like that, but I think that's where all the fun is. Here we are with the 1000 Toys card. Yep. See. And as usual, I think this is the kind of stuff that this is where you have the real fun at. The imagination and the ingenuity, and having older pieces like this doesn't kill that at all. It kind of reinvigorates your love for the stuff that you have now. And if it doesn't, then I think you're probably looking at it wrong. Because if you love doing this, looking back at older stuff should definitely give you new reinvigorated imagination. But in the meantime, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you found it informative. And as always, please do good, be good, drink your water. Later. So I'm going to add this bad boy in at the end because I clearly forgot and I had it on the desk too. Here he is next to a NECA Alien. And this one is standing up, but it has legs hunched over just a tad bit. And you clearly can see the aliens have the height advantage in both vertical and horizontal over the Predator. So it's really cool while you can only see those two cross over pretty well. So yeah, enjoy as always. Later.